All right, y'all. So what we are going to be making today is a Christmas village tree. Now, this is not my tree, nor is the picture that I'm going to show next my actual tree that I made, but we are going to be making a Christmas village tree. These are convenient if you have a lot of Christmas village houses because you don't need a whole lot of space for the Christmas village tree. You just need enough space for however big you want your bottom circle to be. Now, most people build these things with a lot of wood, but as y'all all know, I don't have a builder's bone in my body, so I'm not about to cut up all these pieces of wood and put them all no, we're not doing that. I'm going to show you how to build this without having to cut all those pieces of wood. The only thing you're going to have to cut is these circles. You don't have to cut the pole that's going down the middle. You don't have to cut the two little things that's on the bottom to hold that in place to the pole. You ain't got to do all of that. So I'm going to show you how to do it without cutting out anything but these circles. So when I seen this easier way to do it about 2 years ago, I began to acquire Christmas villages. I did not have any Christmas villages at that time. And so in 2 years, I have acquired all these Christmas villages and I have not used them yet because I have not did this project yet. And of course, I didn't have any Christmas villages before, so I didn't have to, set them out, or I just didn't have this set up until now. So these have been being acquired within 2 years. So if you do not have any Christmas villages, then you may want to start acquiring those because they can get expensive. Now, this is also something that I had bought, and it is the Christmas tree stand. Now, most Christmas villages that I had seen are just, they just stand up and they do not rotate. Well, I wanted mine to rotate, and also when it rotates, you're also able to see things that are going to be in the back because mine is going to be kind of like against the wall. You want it to rotate so that you'll be able to see all the things that are around the back end of the tree as well. So this is the rotating Christmas tree stand that I bought about 2 years ago. So let's get started building this Christmas village tree. Alright, so what we need to do first is stop by Menards, and I'm just going to see if I can find some wood that I can cut up into the circles that I'm going to be needing. Alright, so I think I'm going to go ahead and buy this one. It's 4 feet by 4 feet, and I need something more than 2.5 feet because the biggest circle I'm going to cut is going to be 2.5 feet. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get this one. It's $16, and I'm just going to get one for now, and then if I need more, I can get smaller sizes or bigger sizes, whatever. I'm just going to start off with this one for now and see how many circles we can get. Alright, so basically the only thing you're going to be cutting as far as the wood is the circles that you're going to use for your tree. Now, you don't need to cut any posts. You don't need to cut any additional pieces to be under the circles. You're just cutting the circle. So that's all you're going to be cutting with this project. Now, this is a jigsaw. I did end up buying a jigsaw when I did my dollhouse, so I've already had this jigsaw, but they're not really that expensive, but I did already have my jigsaw from when I bought one when I did my dollhouse. So I am going to explain how I did do the circles later on in this video, but that's all I'm doing is I'm cutting the circles out with this piece of wood. I was able to get 4 out of the 5 circles that I need for my project out of this 4x4. I was able to get 4 pieces. All right, so the reason why you see me cutting straight is because I am cutting squares first, and then I'm cutting the circles out from those squares. So I'm making a circle inside of the squares and then cutting them out. So I'll just need to get another piece of wood. The other size that I need is going to be 24 inches. So I don't need to get a 4x4, just one that's going to be able to cut 2 feet. All right, so I went back to Menards and I got a 2. So this is 24 inches, so it's a 2 foot by 2. So I got a 2x2 from Menards, and I'm going to cut a circle out of this. So how I start that is I find the middle. So obviously in the middle of 2 feet is 12 inches. And I want to kind of put that ruler in the middle when I mark that. So that's kind of in the middle. Obviously it does not have to be exact. So we're going to mark here at 12 inches this way. And then we're going to do it the same long ways and try and get that in the middle as well. And we're going to mark at the 12-inch mark here. So this was our first mark, and we see 12 is here, so we're going to mark here. Now from this point to this point is where you are going to find your middle. So this here is the center. Once you have determined your center, you are going to take a drill and a small screw and drill that into the center part. Obviously, you don't want to drill all the way through the wood, but you just want to drill this screw inside of here. Once again, this is a small screw, and you're just going to drill it in that. Make sure you don't drill it all the way down. Make sure there is some space for a string to wrap around. So I'm going to show you how I make the circle now. All right, so this may be the most difficult part. So you're going to take a marker, a Sharpie, and then you're going to take some string and you're going to tie a knot around the bottom portion of the marker. So about right here, you're going to tie a knot. All right, so now what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the far end of your board. So about right here, then you're just going to wrap the string around that screw. After that, you're just going to draw your circle, keeping your finger down onto the screw and string at the same time. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I get my circles in order to cut them out. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out. Now, because I got a 2x2 instead of something that was bigger than 24 inches, it's more like 22 inches. So I did lose a couple inches, but that's still fine. I did not want to get a 4x4 and have all this extra wood left over just to cut 2 feet out of that, because I do have some wood left over from the 4x4. I was able to cut the first 4 out of that, but the 2 feet one, I just got a 2x2. Once again, it's not exactly 2 feet. It's gonna be 22 inches, which once again, that'll be fine. All right, so all my pieces have been cut. I have 5 pieces ranging from 6 inches all the way up to 22 inches. Now notice how not all my pieces are cut perfectly in a circle, but that is perfectly fine. Once again, y'all know I do not have a builder's bone in my body, so none of these pieces are cut perfectly, but that's okay because this is all going to be covered up. So even if you have like little knots and things and your wood isn't exactly like has little slits and stuff, that's perfectly fine. You don't need very expensive wood because, like I said, this is all going to be covered up anyways, including on the outside. So now I'm going to show y'all the next step after you cut all your circles out. All right, so you're gonna need to buy you a snow blanket, I believe is what this is called. Now I got mine from Facebook Marketplace. Somebody was selling a bunch of Christmas stuff for 65 bucks and this was one of them. Now if I had to say where they got this from, I'm gonna say that they got it from Menards. So I know Hobby Lobby sells some, but you're just going to get a snow blanket. Now the thing about this that's different than the other snow is that this, you can't tear it up or anything like that, which is perfect for covering up the wood. So our next part we're going to do is cover up the wood with a snow blanket. All right, so this is a very large snow blanket. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to just take my largest circle that I have and I'm going to lay it flat down on the snow blanket. What you're going to do is, whether you want to use a staple gun or a hot glue gun, whatever you have, you're just going to make sure you're going to do that on the back of the wood. Make sure while you're doing that, you are stretching and pulling this just so that when you turn it over on the front after you glue it or staple it down, make sure that when you turn around in the front, you don't want all those wrinkles. You want it to be as flat as possible. So while you're doing that, you are stretching and pulling this so that you're not getting those wrinkles for the front. All right, so I got my 5 pieces and they are all covered in that snow blanket. And one of those snow blankets was enough to cover all 5 pieces. And I even have some left over. Okay, so another thing you may notice is that you can kind of see through this. The snow blanket I got is kind of see-through, but that's perfectly fine because we all know that the Christmas Village houses is going to be covering up most of this anyway, so that's perfectly fine. And just in case you're one of those people that like to see everything, I'm just going to turn these over so that you can see how I actually hot glued mine. You can see how I did that. And then I cut the excess around, trying to make, it all the same length, which doesn't really matter anyways. But that's how I hot glued mine. You can use a staple gun as well. All right, and what you're going to need for the next step is a garland. Now, because we are doing a snowy Christmas Village theme, you're going to want to make sure your garland has fake snow on it. And the next thing you're going to want to make sure is that the tree that you're using for on top of your Christmas Village tree, you're going to want to make sure your garland matches it as far as the type of tree. So this is like pine, and then this is a difference between one that's like the garland and one that's not like the garland. This is like a spruce Christmas tree. This is a pine Christmas tree. So you want to make sure it matches the garland. So you're just going to take the garland and you're going to go around each of those circles that you had just covered with the snow blanket. You're going to go around each of those circles with the snow garland and glue that in place. All right, y'all. So boom, here are the 4 smallest circles with the garland wrapped around. And then here is the largest circle with the garland wrapped around. And yes, y'all heard the freaking fire alarm beeping. Oh my gosh, whoop-de-doo. That did get changed soon after, so you're going to hear it about a couple more times, but that did get changed. So don't be up under them comments talking about, hey, your fire alarm's needed, Ben. I know this. I can hear it. Thanks, though. But anyways, Callie Moo just had to lay on the 4 smallest circles and pose for y'all. So there she go. All right, so what you're gonna need next is some flanges. Now these are 1-inch floor flanges. Now y'all already know, I'm gonna go ahead and put that in my Amazon shop cart. It's gonna be titled Christmas Village Tree. So this is what they are looking like. Now y'all already know, I ain't got a builder's bone in my body, so I'm hoping it's pronounced flange and not flang. But I'll just be seeing stuff online and be thinking of easier ways to do things. Now see, this dog, anywho, like I was saying, I just be trying to find things that I like and trying to be finding easier ways to do them and glam them up. So 1-inch flanges, it'll be in my Amazon shop cart, which is going to be in the description box. You're going to need 9, but 10 comes in a pack. So you'll need 2 flanges for each circle except for the top circle. Now, do not ask me what size screws you're going to need because that depends on how thick your board is. Just make sure it goes through the flange and the board, but not all the way through the board, okay? So find the size screw that you're going to need for the size thickness of your board and your flanges. Find the screw that works for you, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to try and find the center of your circle. Now, y'all know my circles weren't perfect circles, but we estimated that this is where the center was going to be. So you're just going to screw in that flange in the center of the circle on the back of the circle. And then you're just going to turn that bad boy over and screw in the front of the circle. Now, when you turn it over, of course, you're not going to be able to screw exactly where, the back of it is because it's going to be, for obvious reasons. You can't, screw in where that one is at. So you're going to screw around where that one is at, but not on top of where that one is at. Do you get it? Got it good? Okay. once again, you're going to do that to all the circles except for the top circle. You don't need one on the top of the top circle because there's going to be a Christmas tree there. You're just going to need to screw one on the bottom of the top circle. So boom, your top circle should just look like this. One on the bottom, nothing on the top. The rest of them have one on the bottom and one on the top, one on the bottom, and one on the top, one on the bottom, and one on the top, and then one on the top, and also the bottom. All right, so once you realize where your Christmas village tree is going to go, you're going to once again need your Home Heritage rotating tree stand. All right, so let me explain something. When I bought this 2 years ago, I went ahead and bought all the materials because what I didn't have for the Christmas village tree was the Christmas villages. And I didn't realize that if you get the good ones, they can be expensive. So when I seen how to do this 2 years ago, I put everything together in case I wasn't going to be able to do it. I would have had to return some stuff. Anyways, I've already had put it together once 2 years ago when I first decided I wanted to do it. But once again, I didn't have any of the Christmas villages, and they can be expensive when you get the good ones. If you get some cheap ones, then okay. But the good ones are expensive, and of course, that's what we got. So 2 years later, we're putting it together. All right, so you're gonna start off by taking these 2 tiny screws out so that you can take that adapter out. Now the adapter that's already in there, I believe it's 1.25. You're gonna take that 1.25 and you're going to use a different size adapter. So make sure you put those screws in a safe space, and then you're gonna take that 1.25 adapter out. So the tree stand comes with 3 additional adapters. We are going to need to use the adapter in size 1.5 inch. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take one of the 1x8 iron pipes and the iron pipe fitting, and you're going to put the iron pipe fitting onto the iron pipe, one end of the iron pipe, because you only have one iron pipe fitting. Once you put the pipe in with the cap down, you're going to be able to put the 1.5 adapter around the pipe. You're going to see it moves. That is not what you want. No sir, no ma'am. So you're going to buy this nano double-sided adhesive tape, and it's just the right thickness for what we need it for. All right, so this part I needed to explain how I did that. So with this tape, what I did was I figured out where the pole stopped at. Once the pole is in and once you got that cap on, you're going to put the adapter, the 1.5 adapter on, and you're going to slide it in. Now, when we first slid it in, you seen how this was moving, right? So now with that tape around the pole, that tape is just thick enough to where that adapter and the pole is not going to be, you know, touching. There's just enough space for this thickness of tape to be inside of there so that that pole is not moving and there's no space all the way around. And that is what you want. Make sure that when you wrap this tape around, that you wrap it around twice. So there's 2 layers of this tape, and the filming for the tape, it's still on here. So none of this is sticky, even though it's double-sided. Leave the filming on the tape, but wrap it around twice. So before you screw your little tiny screws in, just go ahead and plug it in and then turn it on just to make sure that it's spinning and that your pole is not jiggling all the way around, because it's going to need to be secure. And as you can see, it's moving with the pole, and it's just this middle piece that moves. So once you figured out that it is working, it is moving with the pole, because the pole, once again, it has that tape in there, so it's nice and snug because it's just enough thickness so that it doesn't move around inside of the adapter. You can go ahead and put your screws, your tiny screws, back in. So we're going to turn it off and put our screws back in and start putting the rest of it together. And so the only 1/8 pole you're going to use is this one. The rest you're going to use is going to be 1/12 poles when you connect the circles to the circles, but this is gonna just be one pole of the 1/8 that you'll need. The rest is gonna be the 1/12. So you're just going to take your biggest circle, which is going to be your first circle that's going to be on the bottom. You're going to screw that into the 1/8 pole. Then you're going to start taking 1/12 inch poles and screwing those into the circles at the bottom, and then screwing the circles on the top into the other end of the, just watch the video and you understand. Now, of course, the way you are putting this up is the same way you're going to take it down. You're going to unscrew pole by pole, and then you'll be able to put this in a storage bin and save it for next year. So now you're just going to straighten out all your pine leaves just to make it look like, you know, a Christmas tree. Just like you would do your regular Christmas tree, straighten out those pine leaves. All right, y'all. So, boom. There it is. Now remember, I did not have perfect circles. But looking at these circles, these perfect circles, you could not tell that these were, you know, not perfect circles before, because you got that garland going around there. So that is what I meant when I said it doesn't matter if your circles aren't, you know, as long as they're not ziggity zagging and you got like some sort of circle, you know, you're gonna be fine. So there it is in all its glory. So now we can go ahead and start putting this thing together. She is so confused. She was like, why is that thing moving? Cow. All right, so now that you're done with the basic part of the Christmas village tree, basically the bones of the tree, you can go ahead and dress the tree up. What I did was I wrapped some lights around each one of the circles, so each garland has some lights wrapped around it, and then I went ahead and put my Christmas village buildings on top. Now I did use some leftover snow blanket to wrap the poles just so that it'll be white instead of that black in there, so that it'll just kind of blend in with the rest of the snow theme. After those poles were covered with that extra snow blanket, I went ahead and added my Christmas village buildings. So after I had all the buildings put in place, I did add some trees, and then I added some of the fake snow, the cotton kind, so that I can tear it apart and put some behind some buildings just to add some more height, and some more height to put some of the smaller trees on. And then I also added some styrofoam under some of the buildings and also under some of the trees just to give some more height and depth in certain areas. Alright y'all, and that is going to conclude this video of the easiest way that I have found to make a Christmas village tree. If you liked what you see, go ahead and click that like, go ahead and click that subscribe, and go ahead and click that bell so that you don't miss the next notification of when I post my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!